Welcome to this tutorial on Broken Object Level Authorization, or BOLA. Today we will explore what BOLA is, how it can impact your API security, how attackers can exploit it, and then most importantly, how to avoid it. So let's jump into it. Broken Object Level Authorization in an API endpoint refers to a security vulnerability where an API endpoint does not properly limit access to specific resources or objects based on user permissions. This means that attackers can potentially access or modify sensitive data or resources that they should not have access to. Let's have a look at this example. This is the request and response for an API endpoint. The HTTP method is GET and it is trying to fetch the balance present in a user's account according to the ID. In this case, it's 100. And in the response, we can see JSON data which consists of user ID, balance, currency, and last updated. So basically, this API endpoint uses the number as an identifier for a particular resource. And if it does not properly enforce access controls, the attacker could potentially gain access to another user's account balance. So just by simply incrementing or decrementing the number, the attacker can access anyone's data. So even though the bearer token is present, it is not sufficient to protect against BOLA vulnerabilities because the bearer token is used to verify the identity of a user, but they do not provide any information about what actions a user is authorized to perform. Let's have a look at another example. This API endpoint is updating a user's information according to the data provided in the JSON body. Again, the endpoint is identifying whose data is needed to be updated according to the ID, that is 123. So this number is the identifier for the resource that needs to be updated. Again, an attacker can simply change the ID to a predictable number and then change any user's email and password, leading to whole account takeover. As you can see how dangerous it can be. Also, there are different variations of BOLA. The one we looked at is by manipulating the URL, since this is a beginner video. In other cases, BOLA can be triggered by modifying the values in the parameter and the headers of the request as well. And it doesn't only have to be a number. In other cases, there might be an email ID in the URL. So if you know another user's email ID, you can just simply change or replace the ID in the API endpoint and then you can access other users' data. Let's see a practical demonstration. For that, I'll be using OWASP Juice Shop. There is a functionality that allows users to add a review for a particular product. Click on the product and there you can see the reviews of other users as well. For example, I'm going to add a review perfect. There is another functionality that allows users to edit their reviews as well. When I hover over my review, I can see the Edit Review button. I'm going to change the review from perfect to perfecto and submit. Now that we have submitted the review, let's analyze the request in Burp Suite. The request we are looking for is this one, /rest/products/review. And it has the patch HTTP method. In the response, we can see the original and the update comment. Send the request to repeater. Here we can also see that the server identifies the review according to the ID in the request. This is a random ID and it cannot be guessed. Let's go back to HTTP history and analyze some other requests. So there is one endpoint /rest/products/1/reviews. So this endpoint is fetching the reviews for product number 1. Send this request to repeater. And in the response, we can see the JSON body that consists of message, author, product number, likes count, and ID. Interesting point to note here is that the response contains the IDs of the users who have submitted a review. In a normal scenario, we shouldn't be able to see these IDs since they are used to identify a particular user. So this is actually a case of information disclosure. Now, how an attacker can exploit this? Knowing the IDs of another user and the admin, we can try to submit a review on behalf of the other user by changing the ID in the request of the previous endpoint. All you need to do is replace the ID value with the admin's ID. The ID has been replaced by the admin ID and the message is changed. Send the request, and we are getting a successful response. It says that the message has been updated. Means it is actually vulnerable to IDOR. Let's confirm the change by going back to the application. And here we can see the email ID is admin, but the message has been changed. So we were able to exploit IDOR to change someone else's review, leading to unauthorized action. Here are some prevention measures through which you can prevent IDOR vulnerability. First thing you can do is implement access controls to ensure that users can only access the data and resources that they are authorized to access. This can include role-based access controls, permission-based access controls, and other type of access controls. Always validate user input to ensure that it is safe and appropriate for the intended purpose. Next thing you can do is use indirect references. What I mean by that? Use cryptographically strong random values to replace resources such as IDs, names, and keys. Original value and the random values are both stored on the server, so there is no direct reference to be exposed. And this makes it more difficult for hackers to substitute meaningful values for references. Now, you can use non-enumerable identifiers to prevent attackers from manipulating object IDs. Do not use sequential numbers or IDs that are easily guessable. Instead, use randomly generated IDs or hashes that are difficult to guess or predict. This can make it much more difficult for attackers to exploit IDOR vulnerabilities. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.